Hey everybody, happy spring break. I want to say a few things about where we are, what we've come through so far, and where we're going after spring break. A couple details, administrative details. If you start with my welcome page, you can see a link to the instructional tasks, which is the official curriculum that we have, which has been Red Scarf Girl. So everything is listed there, including links for parents to be reading what we have available as well. So that's the official curriculum. It's the highest priority. Also on my welcome page is my enrichment learning activities, which I've been calling school closure activities on the Google Classroom site. They're all summarized here as well for parents. Links where they're available to articles or to web pages or whatever. So everything's listed here all the way through to today, April 3rd, the last thing we have so far. So you can get access by my website as well as by for the students by Google Classroom. So I want to say a few things about the school closure activities. If you haven't done them, don't go back and do them now with an expectation that you need to do them. They're there for the fun of it and for filling some time if you want to do after they're lower priority than Red Scarf Girl. So I've summarized Red Scarf Girl work in a different video, so let me just speak a little bit about school closure activities. There are several. Let me say first the ones that are sort of connected to Red Scarf Girl. There was on March 18th, there was a Google Classroom question about some Mao statues and the role of public art. I thought it was just curious. So there's that available. If nothing else, you might just go look at the material. You don't have to answer the question at this point. On March 23rd, there was this comparison between the Soviet Union and China with three web quests. Not comprehensive coverage of the Soviet Union or Stalin, but I put that there because the next book we're going to do is a Red Scarf Girl like story, but set in the Soviet Union. The 25th, I asked you to read an article about which system is better, the Chinese political system or the American political system. And I think you can see the connection there pretty clearly. On March 31st, I asked you to review the list of the various campaigns that the Communist Party of China has run, the Cultural Revolution being one of the campaigns. I asked you to look at the list of campaigns and then answer a question that says the most, and then you had to pick the word, the most something campaign was, and then name which campaign and explain that. So if you haven't answered that question, that's fine, but you might just go look at this. It's a Wikipedia page of the various campaigns. Some of them might seem kind of curious or interesting to you, so take a look at that. Then on April 2nd, I asked you to consider some propaganda pieces. I showed you some background material on Red Scarf Girl, but also some Chinese propaganda, and then a couple of prints of propaganda with Stalin in the picture instead of Mao. And I asked you to draw a conclusion about Stalin based on what you know about Mao and how these two depictions compare. Knowing what you know about Mao, what you've seen of his propaganda, what do you think? What might you think about Stalin based on the propaganda that you see there as well? You can't know everything, you can't predict everything, but it's at least worth thinking about. And then today's activity was to review these slides about airbrushed photos and history and knowledge and truth and so on, and come up with what you think the main point of such material ought to be or could be. I gave you the material, just descriptive background material, and I did not make a main point, but there's all kinds of main points to be made about what truth is or what knowledge is, how truth is manipulable, how our vision can deceive us, about people in power and authority, and so on. So it's just, again, asking you to look at the material, some of which is Soviet, some of which is Chinese, and others, and say, what do I think of this material? So those are all Red Scarf Girl, Soviet Union Breaking Stalin's Nose is the next book. Those are all connected. The unconnected work is, again, just to have something to do. I asked you to do some creative work if you might, drawing or journaling or writing a story. I asked you to send an email to yourself by scheduling it for delivery later in April, and see how things are going. See what you thought about at the beginning of the closure and what you're thinking about it later. An Ides of March article about the assassination of Julius Caesar. Again, you could read just for the interest of it. Some St. Patrick's Day material on St. Patrick's Day at New Zealand. And then the Mao piece on art sort of connects to the next day's piece on art as well, and the idea of what words mean and how we connect words to knowledge and how we arbitrarily construct those meanings. That, by the way, has potential implications or connections to the discussion of airbrushed photos, because if Magritte is right, everything we see hides another thing, then we're in some senses hiding in a different way by airbrushing, aren't we? So there's lots to think about there. And then on the 20th, I asked you to just how you doing with this whole new routine. So I asked you to do some other creative work here, writing a haiku or diamante about school closure, and a lot of you sent that to me, and I posted that as a Google slideshow. I asked you to do your performance of a monologue from a play, and not many of you did that, which is fine. If you want to record that and send it, that's great. And then an article on an Iranian holiday on the 27th. And then we're moving more toward, most of these this week are about the Soviet Union or the Communist Party. There was one creative activity that was April 1st was fixing that poem. Many of you did that. Some of you did it and didn't quite follow the rules for rearranging, so I made note of that, asked you to redo it. But anyway, that's the school closure activities work. If you haven't done any of it, you might go look at the Soviet Chinese related ones just to get some background for yourself. Because when we come back, we're going to read Breaking Stalin's Nose, which I have not loaded yet. If you would like it, let me know and I'll load it for you. But number one is a copy of a PDF copy of the book. By the way, you need to open the PDF. You probably need to download it to get the icon for turning it sideways the correct way. After you read the book, I'm going to ask you to do a reader's theater of a script that I've provided for you. You could do a different script if you want to write one on your own, or you could revise this one. But I'd like to hear you do a reader's theater presentation of that. And then the final essay, which we'll talk more about, is following on some news from Hungary this past week that their prime minister has gotten power to rule by decree, and what that means with respect to power and authority and limits on power. So some connection there to our social studies work as well. Okay, so that's a review of what we've got, what we've done, what we're going to be doing. Have a good spring break.